The Night Flower, Elliot's story, in the small, forgotten town of Black Hollow, nestled deep within a forest that seemed to breathe with a life of its own. There was a legend whispered among the women. They spoke of a supernatural entity known as the Night Flower, a spectral guardian who emerged from the shadows to protect those who had been wronged by the world. Her presence was said to be heralded by the faint scent of jasmine on the wind, even in the dead of winter, and the soft rustling of petals in the dark. She was a savior, a vengeful spirit, and a mother all at once. No one knew where she came from, but the stories agreed on one thing. The Night Flower only appeared to those who had been pushed to the edge, those who had no one else to turn to. And one cold, moonless night, she came for ***. Elliot had always known he was different. From the moment he could speak, he felt the weight of the world pressing down on him, a world that refused to understand him. His family, devout and traditional, had never accepted him. When he came out as a trans man at 19, their disapproval turned to cruelty. His father's once stern gaze became a glare of disgust. His mother's hugs turned to cold shoulders. And his younger brother, once his closest confidant, now avoided him like a stranger. But it wasn't just the emotional distance. The abuse had escalated. His father's words had turned to fists, his mother's silence to complicity. Elliot had tried to leave, but every time he packed his bags, they found a way to stop him. Threats, guilt, even locking him in his room. He felt trapped, like a bird in a cage with no key. The Night Flower, Elliot's story. One night, after a particularly brutal argument, Elliot fled into the woods. The trees loomed overhead, their branches clawing at the sky like skeletal fingers. He didn't know where he was going, only that he couldn't stay in that house any longer. His breath came in ragged gasps, his heart pounding in his chest as he stumbled through the underbrush. And then he smelled it, jasmine, sweet and delicate. It cut through the cold air like a knife. He stopped, looking around, but there was nothing but darkness and trees. The rustling of leaves grew louder, though there was no wind. His skin prickled, and he felt a presence, something ancient and powerful, watching him. "Who's there?" he whispered, his voice trembling. The rustling stopped. For a moment, there was silence, and then, from the shadows, she emerged. She was tall and ethereal, her form shifting like smoke. Her hair cascaded down her back like a waterfall of midnight, and her eyes glowed like twin moons. Petals swirled around her, though no flowers grew in the barren winter forest. She was beautiful and terrifying all at once, a creature of both grace and wrath. "Elliot," she said, her voice a soft, melodic whisper that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. "You are not alone." He stumbled back, his fear momentarily overriding his exhaustion. "Who are you?" "I am a night flower," she said, stepping closer. "I am a protector of those who have been forsaken. I have heard your cries, felt your pain, and I have come to ensure that no harm comes to you again." Elliot's knees buckled, and he sank to the ground, tears streaming down his face. "I don't know what to do," he choked out. "I can't go back, but I have nowhere else to go." The Night Flower knelt before him, her glowing eyes softening. "You are stronger than you know, Elliot, and you are not alone. I will stand with you." The Night Flower, Elliot's story. The next morning, Elliot returned to the house. His father was waiting for him, his face twisted in anger. "Where the hell have you been?" he snarled, grabbing Elliot by the arm. But before Elliot could respond, the air grew cold, and the scent of jasmine filled the room. His father froze, his grip loosening as his eyes widened in fear. Shadows pulled in the corners of the room, and the Night Flower emerged, her form towering and menacing. "You will not touch him," she said, her voice echoing with a power that made the walls tremble. "You will not harm him again." Elliot's father stumbled back, his face pale. What are you?" he stammered. "I am Justice," the Night Flower replied, "and if you ever lay a hand on him again, you will learn the true meaning of fear." From that day on, Elliot's family kept their distance. The Night Flower became his silent guardian, watching over him as he rebuilt his life. He found a job in the next town over, saved enough money to move out, and eventually found a community that accepted him for who he was. But he never forgot the night flower. On quiet nights, when the wind carried the faint scent of jasmine, he would smile, knowing that she was still there, watching over him, a reminder that even in the darkest of times, there is always hope. And in the shadows, the night flower lingered, her petals swirling in the breeze, a silent promise to protect those who needed her most.